If a surgeon operates on you and you die, should he lose his hands? If a contractor builds your house and it collapses and kills you, should he be executed? If a bartender waters down your drink and overcharges you, should she be thrown in a river? These aren't hypotheticals. These are real laws, written down almost 3,800 years ago, carved into a 7-foot stone pillar. By a king who ruled an empire most people can't even place on a map. This is the Code of Hammurabi. And once you see what's actually in it, you'll never think of ancient law as primitive again. Hammurabi was the 6th king of Babylon's first dynasty. He ruled from around 1792 to 1750 BCE, almost 3,800 years ago, in what's now Iraq. When he inherited the throne, Babylon was a minor city-state. By the end of his reign, through military conquest, diplomacy, and a fair amount of treachery, he controlled most of Mesopotamia. But conquering an empire and running one are different problems. Hammurabi ruled over people with wildly different local customs, languages, and legal traditions. So near the end of his reign, he did something unusual for the time. He tried to write it all down in one place. 282 laws, carved onto a massive basalt pillar called a stele, nearly 7.5 feet tall. Here's the part most people don't know. For over 3,000 years, nobody in the modern world knew this thing existed. In December 1901, a French mining engineer and archaeologist named Jacques de Morgan was leading an excavation at Susa, an ancient city in what's now Iran, over 250 miles from Babylon itself. His team pulled 3 broken pieces of black stone out of the ground. When they fit them together, they had a nearly complete pillar covered in cuneiform script. Why was a Babylonian monument buried in Iran? Because around the 12th century BCE, roughly 600 years after Hammurabi died, an Elamite king named Shutruk-Nakhunti conquered the region and took the stele as a war trophy, hauling it back to his own capital. A French Assyriologist named Jean-Vincent Chaille translated and published it within the year. It went to the Louvre in Paris, where the original still stands today. Now here's where it gets interesting. Because when people hear ancient law code, they picture something crude. What's actually carved into this stone reads less like a primitive rulebook, and more like something you'd find in a modern legal textbook, just with much harsher penalties. Law 218. If a physician performs surgery with a bronze lancet and the patient dies, or if he damages the patient's eye during the procedure, the physician's hands are cut off. This is genuinely one of history's earliest recorded medical malpractice laws. It assigns direct professional liability for a bad outcome. Modern malpractice law is softer. You lose your license and pay damages, not your hands, but the underlying concept is exactly the same. A professional is legally accountable for harm caused by their own negligence. Law 229. If a builder constructs a house and it's built so poorly that it collapses and kills the owner, the builder is put to death. And it goes further. Law 230. If the collapse kills the owner's son instead, the builder's son is executed. This is a legal concept called vicarious liability, extended to an extreme most modern courts would never touch. But the core principle, a contractor is responsible for the safety of what he builds, is literally still the basis of building codes and construction liability law today. Law 108 regulates tavern keepers. Babylon had a thriving beer culture, and this law required tavern keepers to accept payment by a proper weight of grain. If she shorted the measure or demanded a higher price than what was fair, she'd be convicted and thrown into the river. Strip away the punishment, and what's left is the earliest known example of price fixing and fair measure regulation. The same basic idea behind modern consumer protection law, and maybe the most surprising one. Law 1. If someone brings a criminal accusation against another person and fails to prove it, the accuser is put to death. That's an aggressive early version of a concept we still consider foundational to justice today. The idea that accusing someone of a crime isn't free. You bear a real cost if you can't back it up. It's the ancestor of modern defamation, law and perjury statutes, just enforced with the harshest possible penalty. This is also where the code's most famous line comes from. Lex Talionis. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Most people know that phrase. Almost nobody knows it came from here first. Roughly 2 to 3 centuries before similar language shows up in the Hebrew Bible. The Code of Hammurabi wasn't the first law code in history. 3 earlier ones have since been found, but none of them are as complete, as organized, or as ambitious in scope. What made Hammurabi's code radical wasn't that laws existed before it, informal customs and local rulings always had. It's that he tried to make the law the same for everyone across an entire empire. Written down, public, and permanent. Carved in stone, literally. So no official could quietly change the rules depending on who was asking. The stele wasn't hidden in a palace. It was displayed in public, where anyone could see the laws that governed them. That idea, that law should be knowable, consistent, and the same for everyone, is the foundation every legal system since has built on. Next week, we're going back 5,000 years further, before Hammurabi, before Babylon, to the moment humans first decided disputes needed rules at all. Subscribe to Legal Explainer, and I'll see you in the next case.